Shri Sai Ram, Gita Vahini by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba, Chapter 4, Method of Desireless Action and Discrimination without Attachment, Nishkama Karma and Buddhi Yogam. Despite Atma being associated with the Dehams or the bodies or forms, it transcends Guna Dharmas. You are unaffected by the changes or the stages that the body undergoes. When you grow from the infant to the boy, from the boy into the youth, and from the youth to the middle-aged man, and hence to the old man, you persist in spite of all this. It is the same when the body is destroyed. The Atma persists. So, a Dhira or wise man will not grieve for the change called death. Krishna said this with such emphasis that the chariot shook. Arjuna was still doubt-ridden. "O Lord," he began, "you said that bodily changes are like the stages of childhood, youth, and old age. But we do not forget our experiences of these stages. The experiences of previous births are destroyed in memory by the incident called death. So, how to comprehend your explanation?" Krishna replied, "You should only look into the relevant portion of the example and not the entire example in its totality. The only relevant portion that you must consider from the said example is, though the stages of childhood, youth, and old age change, Atma remains the same. Likewise, though the vehicle or the body changes, Atma persists." Arjuna then shifted to another point, a point which pesters all common folks besides Arjuna. That is why Krishna says, "Dhirashtra na mohate." The Dhira or the wise man is not deluded by this. Krishna solves every doubt as soon as it arises. He said, "Arjuna, while passing through the various stages of the body, childhood, youth, etc., buddhi or intellect somehow manages to keep some points in its hold. But it too is destroyed when death comes to the body. At one stroke, all is forgotten. Memory and forgetfulness are the properties of the buddhi, not of the property of the Atma. Now consider this. Assume that you are 25 years old. You cannot now tell exactly where you were on some random day 10 years ago, can you? But you existed that day 10 years ago. There is no doubt about it. You dare not deny your existence then. The same is the case of the life before this which you lived, though you have no recollection of how and where. The wise man is not deluded by such doubts, nor agitated by them. They are the Jnanis. The Atma does not die. The body does not stay. Well, do you think that your grief at their possible death will make the Atma of your opponents happy? That is an insane thought. The Atma does not grieve. Whatever happens or does not happen, let the senses be in their places. Then there is no reason to fear. Fear is caused only when they start associating with the Vishyas or the objects of the world. That is to say, it is only when the senses get associated with the worldly objects that the twin distraction, joy and grief get produced. When you hear someone defaming you, you feel agitated, but no such agitation can take place if the words do not fall on your ears, isn't it? So, Vishaya Indriya Sam Milanam. Association of senses with worldly objects is the cause of vikara or agitation that produces joy and grief. It is similar to heat and cold. When it is the cold season, warmth brings comfort and joy. Likewise, in the hot season, coolness brings comfort and joy. The sense object's contact is exactly like this. So long as the world is there, objective contact cannot be avoided. So long as the prarabdha, or the fruits of the ripened karmas that have already begun, like birth, etc., is there, the joy grief complex cannot be avoided. However, one can master the art, the discipline, the secret of bearing or withstanding them without harm. Of what use is it to wait till the waves are silenced before you wade into the sea for a bath? They will never cease. The wise man learns the trick of avoiding the blow of the onrushing wave and the drag of the receding wave. But a sea bath is essential. Some people avoid that very thing because they are too idle to learn the art. Arjuna, wear the armor of Titiksha, and the blows of joy, grief, complex can never harm you. Titiksha means Sahana, cheerful endurance in the face of duality. Sahana is the privilege of the strong, the treasure of the brave. The weak, when subjected to duality, will be as agitated as peacock feathers. They are ever restless with no fixity even for a moment. They sway like the pendulum, this side and that, once towards joy, the next moment towards grief. Here, some thought has to be spent on one point. Sahanam, or cheerful endurance, here is different from its general meaning, patience. Patience is putting up with something, tolerating it, bearing it, because you have no other go. However, here, Sahanam means having the capacity to overcome it, but yet disregarding it. That is, the spiritual discipline which leads to the moksham or liberation. It means being patient with inner peace. So, here, Sahanam means bearing all with vivekam or true knowledge of wisdom. Here, vivekam points to wisdom. Generally, man seeks only sukham, that is comforts and conveniences, and santosham, happiness. Under no circumstance will he desire kashtam or difficulties and challenges, and dukkham or grief or sorrow. He treats sukham and santosham as his closest well-wishers, and kashtam and dukkham as his direct enemies. This is a great folly. When one is in the sukham, the risk of ashanti or unrest is great and the chance of anandam or bliss is little. On the other hand, kashtam prompts vicharana or inquiry or self-examination. In other words, there is more papam or evil consequences in sukham than in kashtam. Kashtam awakens man from sloth and conceit and renders him alert and watchful through vicharana. Sukham makes one forget one's obligation to oneself as a human being. It drags man into avivekam of foolishness and ahamkara or egoism, which leads to committing sinful deeds. Sukham spends out the stock of merits. So, kashtam is the real friend of man as it elevates papam or sins and promotes awakening. Sukham must be regarded as a true enemy, as it depletes the merits of man and drags him to commit sinful deeds. Kashtam expands vivekam or discrimination, and promotes Vicharana Shakti or power of inquiry. Sukham, on the other hand, draws a veil over experiences that harden a person and make him a mandamati or dull-witted. So, customs or troubles and travails are to be treated as friends at least, not as enemies. It is best to regard both Sukham and Dukham caused by the consequences of prarabdha as gifts of God. Only then can one be able to attain bandha vimukti or the liberation from the bondage. To have such vivekam or wisdom is jnanam or supreme knowledge, and devoid of such vivekam is a jnanam or ignorance. The one who is steeped in a jnanam or ignorance is blind. Really, Sukham and Dukham are like jnanam and ajnanam. The blind man must be accompanied ever by one who sees, isn't it? The blind man cannot move alone. So too, when one aspires for Sukham, Dukham too is inevitable. It is only when Sukham is accompanied by Dukham the value of Sukham is realized. Thus taught Krishna to Arjuna. Then Arjuna resumed, Madhava, God, Lord of universe, what is the profit if your advice is followed and if the necessary titiksha is cultivated and the joy-grief complex is conquered? Orpu of forbearance is perhaps the only result. There is no other benefit, isn't it? Krishna replied, O son of Kunti, the one who does not waver, even to the slightest extent by the waves of Sukhams and Dukhams caused incessantly on the sea of samsara, who does not lose the mental poise and remain ready and remain steady and perseverant throughout, is called a dhira or wise person. He must have necessary mental strength or buddhi or wisdom to refute the ever-present dualism of the objective world. Only such a person is referred to as dhira. Dhi means buddhi. It is the buddhi, wiseness, that makes a person a purusha, perfect man. It is not the dress or the growth of a mustache that defines a person as purusha. Purusha is the one who has the buddhi to refute the dualism of the objective world. Proper path to achieve that status of a perfect manhood or purusha is to earn victory over internal foes rather than the external. So the task or the real achievement of a dhira is to conquer the twin enemies of Sukham and Dukham. Well, you might have another doubt also. Your heart is a nest of doubts. You might still question, what is the gain or fruit of such victory? The gain is Amrita Patham, that is the path of immortality. So the fruit of conquering Sukham and Dukham is Nirpeksha Amritam or absolute bliss of immortality. Arjuna, you are a Purusha Sreshta, the best among men. So, in order to completely liberate you from the persistent grief due to the doubtfulness about the need of this paltry victory over external enemies and accomplishments of absolute bliss of immortality, I taught you Atma Anandam, I taught you Atma, Anatma, Vivekam, discrimination between Atma, self, and Anatma, non-self. Lord Krishna taught him how to discern and distinguish between Sat and Asat. He explained that Atma is the only Sat and rest all forms or objects and mere Matra Sparsha or contact of the senses and sensory perceptions. He further stated that it is not possible for Sat to become non-existent and Asat to become ever-existent. The Atma Jnani is not bound by the karma, and ignorant due to the lack of self-knowledge is bound by the karma or due to ahamkara or doership. Like the person who has learned swimming can safely wade into the river waters without any danger. If the person does not know how to swim but yet enters into the river, he will end up in the sea and death is sure. This explains why Lord Krishna taught Arjuna Atma Jnanam or self-knowledge in the beginning itself. Krishna said, Atma does not kill nor does it die. Those who believe that it kills or dies are truly unaware of its true nature. Therefore, the Atma of Arjuna does not kill. The Atma of Bhishma or Drona does not die. The Atma of Krishna does not instigate. These are just phases of the cause-consequence duality. The Atma cannot be the cause or consequence or subject matter or object of any karma. It is nirvikara, incapable of any modification, so it does not kill nor does it die. Krishna further explained there are 6 forms of vikaras or modifications or mutations: originating, existing, growing, altering, declining, getting destroyed. These are called sadbhava vikaras or originating or jnanma. Jnanma is when it was not and later is. When it is and becomes is not, it is called maranam or death. Janma happens to savaya, vastu, that is anything having parts or organs, and nirvaya, vastu, anything that is indivisible or divisionless. But the Atma is niravyayam, so it is not born and therefore how can it die? Whom does it kill? It is ajaya, unborn, nitya, eternal, and sashvata or imperishable. Just as a person discards old cloth and worn out clothes and wears new and clean ones, the Dehi or the dweller in the body casts out the worn out body and dons a new one. The body is to the individual what the clothes are to the body. If you understand the real nature of the Atma, which remains as Sakshi or witness to the changing bodies, then you would not give way to grief like this. All the weapons that you wield can harm but the material body. They cannot harm the unmodifiable Atma. Know this truth and renounce this grief towards the physical form or the body. The most noble and foremost duty of a Kshatriya or warrior is to stand by the side of Dharma or righteousness and destroy adharma or unrighteous. Arjuna, consider your good fortune. You have on this battlefield worthy foemen like Bhishma and others. This same Bhishma, who is your most revered grandsire, fought in the past with his own guru, the Brahmana, who taught him all the arts, the great Parashurama himself, in order primarily to carry out his dharma or the prescribed duty as a Kshatriya obligation. Have you thought of it? Did Bhishma grieve that day? Just like you, Bhishma, the most virtuous and a great renunciate, committed himself to his Kshatriya dharma and fought against his own guru and a Brahmana, Parashurama. And now you, like a coward, are afraid to take arms against such stalwarts of Kshatriya blood. A Kshatriya finds his duty fulfilled when he upholds the cause of dharma in spite of all odds. That is Shreyo Margam, or the path of highest or the absolute good. Have you ever pondered over the meaning of the word Kashtam? Kashtam means Dukham, grief or sorrow, and a Kshatriya is he who saves beings from Dukham. A chance like this to wage a war on behalf of Dharma or righteous against the forces of adharma or unrighteous comes but rarely to man. You have been blessed as a Kshatriya to take part in this Dharma Yuddham, the war that is fought to establish Dharma by defeating adharma. Just imagine how much merit you will acquire by the service to the world. which you are said to do now by saving the righteous and killing the unrighteous ones. The war that is waged to establish Shanti or peace and Sokhya well-being in the world is referred to as Dharma Yuddham. The Kauravas have desisted from no sin, no injustice, and no vice. They insulted elders, deserted the virtuous, defamed the chaste, and wounded the self-respect of the good. Countless are their misdeeds. Now, the moment for retribution has come. They are about to answer for all their crimes. And just at this hour, if you behave like a coward, you bring dishonor to your parents, your brothers, and indeed to the entire Kshatriya class. Arjuna, you imagine that it is a sin to engage in war. That is a great error. The sin, on the other hand, lies in avoiding the chance to destroy the wicked in prolonging the agony of the virtuous. Give up your dharma now, and you run the risk of falling into perdition. Hold fast to it, and you are untouched by sin. Be equal-minded. Do not give way to either one or the other among all the dualities of the world, and engage in the battle with a steady and firm mind. For this reason, in this chapter, Krishna taught Arjuna in 8 shlokas or verses, starting from the 31st shloka in the 37th shloka. Krishna advised that one should hold fast to one's dharma and to engage in karma or activity with a steady mind in the midst of sukha and dukkham. The 39th shloka is the transitional shloka for Lord Krishna after speaking of Ishate Bihita Sankhya. I taught you Sankhya Buddhi, or analytical knowledge of the essential nature of the immortal self. Says that he will go on to teach him the Yoga Buddhi or the Buddhi Yogam, and asked him to listen with care. When the action is performed without any attachment towards its fruit, through the means of buddhi or intellect, it is called nishkama karma or desireless action. And this is what is buddhi yogam. Unless the intellect is purified, it is impossible to give up all attachment to the fruits of action, isn't it? That is why it is called yoga buddhi. With the help of yoga buddhi, liberate yourself from the bondage of karma and become a karmatita, one who transcends the doership of karma. You might say that you will desist from karma that binds rather than practice the difficult discipline of renouncing the fruits thereof. But that is not possible. Also, it is not possible to refrain from doing any karma. One has to do some karma or other. It is inevitable for any individual. That is why Nahi Kashit Kashanamapi, not for a single moment can one free oneself from performing karma. Says Krishna in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. Arjuna, every kamya karma or action to fulfill a specific desire has a chance of loss of effort or incompleteness of task. But nishkama karma or desireless action has no chance of loss of effort. That is the difference between sakama karma and nishkama karma. When kamya karma is done with a view to the gain therefrom, one must be ready to face the loss, the pain, and even the punishment. But nishkama karma is free from all these. Falapakesha samsara hetu. Desiring the fruits of karma throws one into the cycle of birth and death. Phala, tyagam, moksha hetu. Giving up the desire for the fruits of karma makes one attain moksham or liberation. If one follows the path of nishkama karma, even if one does not succeed to attain fulfillment in this birth, his efforts will not go wasted. The effects of nishkama karma will continue even in the next birth and help in attaining fulfillment at least then. One can certainly accomplish their goal. Therefore, you have the right only to do karma or prescribed duty, but not on its fruits thereof. Arjuna, Phalapakesha or aiming for the fruit of one's acts is an indication of Rajoguna, or passionate and aggressive quality, which does not befit you. When I tell you to leave the fruits of karma, you may perhaps prefer to leave the karma itself. That is even worse than Rajoguna. Well, it is an indication of Tamoguna. So beware. Here the Lord has laid down 4 commands. The first one, a do, and the other 3 don'ts. The first one corresponds to Sattva Guna, and the other 3 don'ts correspond to Rajas and Tamas. Lord Krishna's message that the goal or objective must be only to do karma applies to the whole of mankind and not just to Arjuna. Arjuna is only the representative man. Those who study Gita must learn this lesson first, that it is primarily for every seeker. Another point to be noted is this: message about the goal of doing only karma is applicable solely to man, not to birds and beasts or to the gods or devatas. Man does acts prompted by the desire for the fruits thereof. If the act does not yield fruit, he will not do the act at all. Profit, gain, reward, result, man seeks these when he does any act. But this does not apply to those who drink the nectar of the Lord's message in the Gita. Only ordinary folks aspire to the fruits of their actions, but those who aim for moksha or liberation must engage in karmas while dedicating its fruits at the feet of the Lord. That results in Shanti or peace. Jai Sai Ram.
Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Oh